Hey, this is Ben Solomon, and welcome to this episode of the Techno Leadership Show. In this episode, we are going to be talking about how to do a personal SWOT analysis. SWOT, as you know or may not know, stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's one of the basic things I believe we all need to do to understand what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, and what opportunities exist in our environment, in our career path, what opportunities we can utilize better using our strengths, what we need to avoid due to our weaknesses. Even if there are opportunities to mitigate those weaknesses, you still may not want to put yourself in that sort of situation. And then threats. Some of our weaknesses could be threats to the path that we want to go in our career. So to mitigate that, we might want to look at skills that we can develop or the right kind of opportunity that is right for us in those areas. So I've spoken about this in previous episodes around, trying to understand your strengths, weaknesses, and all that so that you can present yourself in the right manner when you go for interviews and all of that sort of thing. At this stage, I want to actually provide something that's valuable in doing that SWOT analysis. And I'm also thinking of in future episodes to go deeper into each of those resources that you can utilize to figure out your strengths, your weaknesses, and the common threads that we have between them. And as I've mentioned in previous episodes, I am a big fan of psychometric testing. Some people love it, some people hate it. I use it as an indicator to see where my natural inclinations are, and where I find weaknesses, I am more conscious in how I approach life in those areas. And where there are strengths, I try to find ways I can leverage that so that I can provide the most value and benefit to people that I come in contact with. So that's basically how I approach it. I don't take it as the gospel. It's not one test, or even all of those tests aren't gonna define you. We all are a combination of all those archetypes that are there in each of the psychometric testing. We just have different ratios naturally. We can develop skills that then helps us in other areas. So it's not gonna completely put us off or anything of that sort. So with that disclaimer, I'm gonna go ahead and start with a window that I'll show, and the tests that I've done, I've gotten good use and results out of. And it's also the same tests that I've gotten team members that I've coached in the past, and other colleagues that I've coached in the past, and other people who've asked me questions about what path should I take in a technology or engineering career or management or leadership pathway. So hopefully that is of benefit to you, and so I'll just shift to that screen and walk you through what's there. Cool. So I'll start from the top, what I've had open. So the 16 personalities test is based on the MBTI or Myers-Briggs type indicator. Yes, there is a significant amount of scientific evidence or even criticism that the MBTI is not perfect. No test, psychometric or otherwise, is perfect. They all give you an understanding of where you're at the moment, how you approach life at the moment, how you approach problem solving, and all of those sort of things. It doesn't mean you can't change. It doesn't mean that you can't add skills to your repertoire, that you are more mature. All of that is part of the journey of life. So I wouldn't take it as the gospel, as I said. But the MBTI, it gives you an understanding across 4 criteria that then, as a matrix goes into 16 different personality types that they've said. And each of that has a significant amount of depth that you can go into. I've spent over the last 7 to 8 years, maybe even 10 years, going deep into at least 8 or 10 different of these psychometric tests to really understand what everything means and how I can utilize that for myself and for the people that I help. So in this case, 16 personalities is probably one of the better MBTI tests. I'm sure there are others that you can find out there, but after doing a bit of research and actually doing the free version and then buying the premium profile, these guys have a lot of information that you can utilize. If you're someone who's a detail oriented person, you might actually enjoy the amount of detail there. And even though I'm not ultra detail oriented, I got a lot of benefit from it in understanding that. And then there's books out there that you can use to understand the basis of everything. And what I also want to say is that in the episodes that I do in the future, where I go through one test each episode in detail, I'll try to share some insights of what you could potentially use and insights around what I've seen, and even probably share some of my results so that you can see how that applies. So I'll see how that goes. That's a thing for the future. But yeah, 16 personalities. There's a free test version you can do, and these guys have really good explanations on what each of these 16 types means and how you can utilize them, what careers paths that suit you best. Doesn't mean it is the gospel. Again, please do think about this. It's not saying that it is the gospel of the career path that you have to take, but it gives you an idea of what kinds of roles your natural inclinations suit best. So yeah, you can look into that. You can just read these if you're not even if you're interested in doing the test. Yeah, it's free. If you're not interested in doing the test but just want to get a idea of what all this means, you can have a look at that. It's fantastic. The next one is the DISC profile, and this is MBTI and DISC. They're actually used by a lot of organizations for recruitment. For many years it's been used, and especially the DISC has a significant track record in terms of your inclinations and how you go about solving problems and dealing with people and all that. And so Tony Robbins has got a free DISC assessment. It's free DISC assessment there. You can do that. It gives you a fairly short summary. The early versions of this, I believe from 2014-ish, maybe 2013, used to have a much more in-depth report that you got, about 50 pages long. But I believe now it's only about a summary report that you get. I'll have to go through my old ones and check what the differences were. But yeah, I know the new report that you get is a summary report, not the full in-depth detailed report. So I'll show you a paid resource that you could potentially use if you're willing to invest into yourself. You can utilize the paid one, which is not by Tony Robbins, by another person by the name Dan Miller. But I'll get to that in a minute. So this, yeah, again, there's a good lot of explanation here to see what drives you, what's your natural drive. So there are people who are dominant. These are usually people you see in like leadership roles and in some sales roles, but then the sales-oriented people would have influence with a bit of dominance in most cases, but then you have some that'll be more dominance with a bit of influence. Then you have account managers and, let's say, engineers and technologists tend to be in the SC or CS style because those are the strengths that help technologists do your job best. And then it just gives you an explanation of this thing, and you can do the test there. So that's the DISC profile. The next one is the Enneagram personality test. This is again fairly complex. Enneagram is one of the more complex ones out there. But again, when you do this test, you get a report that gives you an understanding of what your strengths are, how you can utilize them, and then you can look at commonalities across them rather than just one thing. I don't believe in just doing the one test and depending on that, because it just it's the number one in that sort of sense is a bad number, because you're just basing every decision or every assumption on one data set. Whereas if you have multiple, then you can look at all the commonalities and get the best out of it. So those are the free ones, and I believe the character strengths used to have a free one, and you get like, I believe, your top character strength as a free report, and then you can either buy the full 24 to see what your character strength stack is, or you can buy the top 5 for $20 US. So I'll put that up there. And then moving down to Colby. Colby is not like your average psychometric test. It isn't, more about how you go about, thinking about things or problems solving, but it's more about how you act. So they have 4. So we'll actually go to the Colby A index is the one that we would want to take. Big organizations have the B index and a few others that you can do, but for individuals to look at our strengths, this is the one, Colby A index. So now the price is $55 there, but what it does do is it gives you a, not exactly a score, there's a 4-digit number that you get, and it goes across a spectrum of looking at 4 areas. If you're someone who needs a lot of facts before you take action, or if you're someone who needs little bit of information before you take action. Then there's people who love to create systems, and then there's people who don't follow systems, and there's then what's known as quick starts, who take action without too much information, having to over research things. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where you need to have a lot of information before you make any decision. And then the final one is related to physical space. So you have people who have a high score, and that would be people who do a lot of physical work, like let's say they might be mechanics, they might be tradespeople who work with their hands and build things. And on the other spectrum of it, end of it, is people who imagine the result and go based on that. So that's a very different system, and I think one of the most valuable, if you don't have a whole lot of money to invest into all of these other ones that I'll talk down here, I think Colby A is one that you should, if possible, make an effort to invest into, because it is something that'll really help you understand how you act, or what is known as conation. Cool. So when I go into these in depth, I'll talk more in depth about all of that. But let's move on to the next one, which is talent dynamics. This is by a fellow by the name Roger Hamilton, and he's got one called wealth dynamics, which is for entrepreneurs and that sort of thing. Talent dynamics is for people who work in organizations to get an understanding of what their primary mode of value creation is. So people who are creators, are visionary, creative, are stars, people who promote others. Supporters, people who support, and deal maker, trader. There's all different modalities that you can look at and get a feel for it. And again, if you can, it's worthwhile doing the test. I believe it is $99, $99 US for this. So that's there. And then we have the paid disc test that I was talking about. So this is Dan Miller's website, 48 days /DISC. So you can go in there and do the test, and there's a very in-depth report that you get, which is fantastic. So all you need is a classic profile. If you want any of the other ones, feel free to. As a Christian, I just was interested to see what my quote-unquote Christian gifts would be and values would be. The values one is actually quite interesting. It helps you clarify your core values, but I would suggest that you do the core value determination before you get this answer through here. And then if you're looking at going into sales, the sales profile might be beneficial. And if you're struggling with your fitness, this could give you an idea of what kind of processes that you need to put in place for your unique personality style to make the most out of it. But simple thing, all you need is a classic profile. In the future you can decide if you want any of these, not to worry about that. And then you have Strengths Finder. This again, they've got 34 strengths, and the top 5 I believe you get with the access code that you get from any of these books. So if you have the Strengths Finder 2.0 book or Half Full Bucket, all these books have codes in them. So if you buy the physical version, or if you buy the Kindle version, you get the code sent to your email from memory. It's been a while since I've done this, so yeah, I'm pretty sure for these ones, if you buy the Kindle version of the books, you get the code sent to you. If you buy the physical version, each book's got its own unique code in it. The other thing you can do is you can actually just buy the Clifton Strengths 34 if you don't want to buy the book. I believe you get a PDF ebook if you buy it through here anyway, so that you can actually learn more about the system and understand your strengths and the benefits that you get for each strength and what weaknesses are there for each of those strengths as well. Cool, so that's the Strengths Finder 2.0. And then Tony Robbins has another one called What's Your Driving Force? This is again an interesting one just to give you a feel for what your core and driving force is. Out of the 6 that he believes are the top fundamental human needs. So it's worthwhile doing that and seeing what yours is, because that does affect how you go about life. Then you have, this is one of the new ones that I've done. I believe I did this in 2020 possibly. And the Working Genius, so it breaks it down into I think it comes up as widgets. So yep, here we go. Wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, tenacity. Again, gives you an idea of what your stack is. So they go based on your answers to the test. This comes up in different orders, and based on that you'll know which your top 2 are, which your middle 2 are, and then which your bottom 2 are. And again, based on that, it helps you understand what your strengths are, weaknesses are, how you work in a team, etc. And it's $25 for a single license of that one. And then you have the Big 5. This is one of the free ones. I should have put it up here. There we go. Anyways, I'll put links to all of this in the description for the video in YouTube, but also put it on technoleadership.org in the post for this particular episode. So yeah, the Big 5 is more scientifically validated, and it goes about, again, as a spectrum of whether you're introverted, extroverted, open to ideas, you're close to ideas, and so many different things that you can again utilize to understand what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and potential threats and opportunities of each of that. So that's pretty much all the tests there. I mean, there's a lot more you can do, but this is all you need and look, the free is more than enough to start off with. And if you really get interested in this, then you can go down the path of doing the Colby and the talent dynamics, the paid disc, strengths finder, and all that sort of thing. And that's entirely up to you. With people that I've done pro bono coaching, I've usually gotten them to do the free ones. Some of them have said, oh, is there other ones that we can do? And I've gone, yep, these are the best paid ones that you can do, and I'm happy to work with you to help you, sort of thing. But there you go, those are the free ones. I'll put the free ones in the link, and I'll also put the paid ones in the link as well. So that's those things. I'll just change this back to the webcam. There we go. Cool. So that's that helps a lot to get an idea of what your strengths are, weaknesses are, all of those sort of things, because each of those reports have information around what those strengths and weaknesses for each of those things are. And what I've done is I've actually got a notebook where I've written the answers and the keywords from each of those test reports, so that I can then find the common thread across them and know that this layer is the common thread, my deepest strengths, and then there's the other ones that are outliers that are not as strong strengths, but something that I can leverage and actually exponentially get value out of still. And then there are the weaknesses. And if there are weaknesses that are going to affect me in my career, in my life, I find ways to build skills to mitigate those weaknesses. In some cases, like if you're blessed to work in an organization with big teams, you'd have people in your team who have strengths where your weaknesses are, and you just have to learn to delegate or work with them in a partnership to ensure that you get the projects done to the best of your ability as a team. So that's basically it for doing that. So yeah, strengths, weaknesses, and then based on that you can look at what opportunities exist, what are the best opportunities for you to go for, and what opportunities exist in your current environment. So in the city that you're working in the company that you're working in, what opportunities exist. And then you look at the threats based on your current situation, your current work environment, and your weaknesses and strengths as well. Because what does happen is if you over rely on some of your strengths, they can come out as weaknesses. And then there is the other side of things where, let's say you have detail orientedness as your strength, and you're great as an engineer, great as a technician, technologist. When you go into management, what tends to happen, and I've seen this, experienced it from people, and what does tend to happen in that circumstance, there is a tendency to become a micromanager. So when you go into management and leadership, you don't want to be a micromanager. You want to trust your people, but verify the answers. So you use the detail orientedness in the verification side of things and allow your people to do the job. Tell them what needs to be done and let them figure out the how based on the governance frameworks and everything that you have in place, and then verify that it's been done, because at the end of the day you're responsible as a leader and a manager. And even if a higher level senior engineer, project engineer, it comes on your head. So trust but verify, but it's using these things and understanding, yep, that could be a weakness, how can I use it as a strength, and working with that. So hopefully that's given you a good grounding basis to start doing a personal SWOT analysis on yourself, to figure out what opportunities you can go for and what the next steps in your career should be based on your vision and desire and values and everything. And until the next episode, I wish you all the best and take care and have a great day. And if you like this episode and would like to continue to listen to more and learn more and grow more, please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you soon. Take care. Have a good one.